I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Begin again is over. Musicians, for the most part, are monosyllabic teenagers who really don't have a lot to say. Or in this movie, they're actors pretending to be musicians who are monosyllabic teenagers who don't really have a lot to say. All right, Andy, begin again. Number 2 in the John Carney extravaganza of music movies. Where are you on this movie?
So, I started this movie and without my wife, and then she came in and wanted to watch it. And I said, would you like me to begin again?
And were you proud of that moment?
I was very proud of that. I was as proud as my once joke last week.
Yes,
twice.
Keep them coming.
I know. I got to come up with a good one for Sing Street.
I can't wait for Vocalizing Avenue next week. I think this movie, this is, again, it's part of my series. As a bit of a recap, we're doing the John Carney musical extravaganza. Once, we talked about last week, definitely leans hard on the documentary style, sort of guerrilla style filmmaker. We have actual musicians who are learning to act in this movie, and I think we both really appreciated what that movie does. It's full of catchy music, great singer-songwriter stuff, tight little budget. The movie delivers. This one we have.
True.
We move from Dublin to New York City, and we take the actors who were first musicians in the original movie, and we replace them with big-name Hollywood people in the form of Ruffalo and Keira Knightley, Mark Ruffalo and Keira Knightley, and we get this collision of what happens when this raw sort of authenticity or the intention of authenticity meets more professional filmmaking. This was definitely not shot on video cameras. This was shot on big reds. This was far from the scrappy kind of intimacy that you have with Once. This is a polished professional film. And it is a movie where you can feel Carney navigating that tension as he evolves as a filmmaker. And I think it's interesting. I will say I have more quibbles about this movie than I did Once. What do you think about that?
Then Once Upon a Time, or then Once the film.
This is going to be problematic. Let me begin again. Wait.
He makes it so easy. He makes it so easy.
I know.
It's Carney's fault.
Oh, Carney.
Yeah.
So give me a sense of where you stand on this movie.
I can see quibbles, but I don't know. This is an interesting film because it's fun because it's about largely it's about this music exec who wants to get back to why he wanted to start this business to begin with. He is tired of the crap music that he and his partner are putting out, and he wants to go back to the reason that they started, which was, as you said, kind of that authenticity, finding those musicians who really had something to say. And I think I appreciate that. It's funny because I think over the course of the story, I think there's a journey that we are seeing with Mark Ruffalo's character of trying to figure out what that authenticity is. And even at the end of the film, I feel it still kind of is, he still can't shake the businessman angle of of how he operates, Whereas Keira Knightley, I think her character is, she enjoys writing songs and performing periodically, but that's not really what she's after. And so I think because of the way that he crafts these two characters, I buy the authenticity mostly, but I think sometimes I feel that there is there's like a hint of that I don't think it's the budget. I don't think the budget is my issue as far as like feeling over polished or anything like that. I don't have an issue with that. I just think that sometimes when stories are trying to talk about wanting to be authentic and find the heart of the thing, I think that's a hard thing to write about sometimes and have actors perform, because it's, in some ways, sometimes it just ends up not feeling as authentic, you know? But I think because he cast Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo in the parts, I think that generally, I think that they actually tap into it most of the time. Like, I think there's a lot in this film that I really love about just the nature of what they're working to fictionally achieve.
Do you believe them both? This is where I struggled. Like I find I believe Ruffalo more because he inhabits the sort of like, I just got up out of bed, but I'm still wearing a tie kind of a aesthetic. Like I believe where he is in life. Like, but I find that Keira Knightley, whom I adore as an actor, is wholly wrong for this movie. And I don't think I've ever felt as strongly about it until this watch. Is
it the acting and the performance of her, like just the acting performance, or is it her singing?
I think she comes around to the singing, right? I mean, she gets there. She's not a singer. She didn't sing before this movie. Reportedly, Carney wanted to cast somebody like Adele or even Scarlett Johansson in this part before it got to Keira Knightley. Both, obviously, Adele is quite a singer, and Scarlett Johansson has a background in singing too and has some CDs. I don't particularly care for her music. It's not in my playlist, but she's not a bad singer by any stretch. Like, she's really quite good. So the fact that we land with Keira Knightley, who is a phenomenal actor and needed to be taught to sing, I think limits the range of the movie. Of that, like there is no point in this movie where I don't look at her and think, this is an actor who had to work really hard to pretend to be a musician. And I didn't feel that way at all in Once, because they were musicians. And I sort of feel like this is where you see the seams, where Carney gets more in terms of resources to be able to make this movie, and part of professionalizing the movie goes in, lies here in getting the people who can deliver and preference performance rather than musicianship in a movie about music.
It's funny because my watching this with my wife, she said something very similar, that she's like, her voice always sounds too small, I think is what she said. And I can see that. And I'm like, well, I feel like there are performers out there who have, those sorts of voices. I'm just wondering if the music written around her voice is maybe too much for it. Like, there's too much music for a smaller voice, where maybe it should just be like a guitar and voice sort of thing, But I don't know. I don't know enough about like putting together things like that as far as like bands and everything. But I think from my perspective, I can kind of understand that, but I really liked her singing, and so I guess I struggle with that line a little bit, because I'm like, I liked her singing. I thought she did fine. I guess I can kind of see that point, but it wasn't something that bugged me, I guess, and so, but I can see the issue. And I think this is why Carney had some serious frustration making this movie. I think, I don't know if he was pushed into casting Keira Knightley, or if he was, if I don't know how that happened, if they were just up against a wall and had to cast somebody. But I mean, he was pretty nasty in some interviews about her, about working with her. Is like, I'll never make a film with supermodels again, even though she's not a model. He said, when he was getting ready to do Sing Street, he said, from his experience of working, let's face it, or he wanted to do something like Sing Street because of working with a model on his last film. He kept calling her, and he did later apologize, and she accepted his apology, and she said she wasn't shocked by his comments because they did not get along during filming. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of this just boils down to exactly this issue. Like, I just wonder if it came down to the fact that he felt he ended up casting a great performer, a great actor in the part, but somebody who didn't have the voice for it, But I don't know. I can see all that, but I still enjoy her singing. I enjoy the songs. I think she plays the part really well. The relationship with Ruffalo, I think, is very authentic. So largely, I find myself quite enjoying a lot of the stuff going on here. But I definitely can see that issue and why people would struggle with that.
Yeah. I think I end up appreciating more about the movie because I so love the ideology of these movies, right? Because this is, as I said last week, like so much of what I love about Once is that music is the point. I love music movies, and so I forgive an awful lot of stuff that I might otherwise, be super critical of if I wasn't just a big damn fan of the process of making movies. This one, on this point, I have another quibble. Are you ready?
Oh, okay.
I don't even know if I want to say this one out loud because it seems like I'm such a basic bitch about it. But look, the conceit of the movie is that he is going to produce her and they're going to use CeeLo's money to make a movie or to make an album outside in New York and use the texture of New York as the album. And they're super proud of this. And every time they play the demo after they make it in that final 15 minutes, everybody who listens to it is like, this is amazing. You guys made the right decision. We're all very proud of this decision. And then you go listen to the soundtrack and there's no New York in any of those songs. Like, how proud can you possibly be if you scrub the entire conceit of the movie from the soundtrack for a movie about making music outside?
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, and it's an interesting point because they didn't record any of it out there. It was all recorded ahead of time, and they were just
and all of the street sounds were recorded, isolated, and pumped into the movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
I wanted to hear the guy scream, "I'm calling the police!" Like,
right.
They made a big deal about that stuff.
Well, and that's interesting because in the scope of album releases, does that happen often? Like, I know I've heard of artists who said, "Oh, we found this amazing old barn in a field in Pennsylvania. It had a great sound, and so we recorded our entire album in this barn." Like, I've heard things like that.
Sure.
But I mean, can you think of anyone who's actually done albums like this, or like, we want the authentic street sounds in the backgrounds of every song, whatever that may be?
I can't right off the dome think of that, but that's really not. That's beside the point because
no. I'm just wondering if it's a thing.
I don't know if it's a thing. I don't feel like I have an album in my collection that has been so explicit as this movie purports to be. Right? This movie is saying we're going to do something radically different. And shouldn't we be proud of that point all the way through production?
Yeah, right.
Even if they're going to pipe the street sounds in like they do in the movie, I wanted street sounds.
Yeah, right. Where it sounds like you're hearing those elements as another additional piece of the layering. I mean, I agree. I think in the scope of things, I mean, I guess I never thought about it. I don't think I've ever listened to this soundtrack. I've heard that one, the song, Lost Stars. I've heard, but I don't think that any of this is something that I've ever tapped into beyond just when I watched the movie. And so I guess I hadn't really thought about the soundtrack to that extent, but that's interesting that they didn't. Which is more of a fault of the soundtrack than the film, though.
Yeah, I think so. I do think there is, this is another one where it feels like the movie is showing its seams, where we have a movie that's ideologically about, capturing music in a certain way, and then so obviously not actually capturing music that way. like it's all lip synced and performed over tape in all of these locations. When I look at it that way, it becomes a sort of a more disingenuous postcard of New York, like going through Central Park and the Bethesda Steps and Washington Square and the Wall Street subway station, like all of these iconic locations, in a way that made Dublin feel super discovered in once. This movie felt like we have money, so we're going to clear the streets and we're going to get proper permits and do stuff just because we can. And didn't stop to ask whether or not they should. Aping another movie.
I mean, I disagree about once. I don't feel like I got any sense of Dublin out of that movie, other than that one street that.
Well, and that's what I mean. I don't think Dublin. I felt like Dublin felt like home to these people, right? I don't feel like New York feels like home. It feels like I'm on a bus going to famous locations.
Oh, I don't know if I felt that. I mean, I maybe more so with Keira Knightley, but that's just because she isn't from there. She's visiting long term. But I mean, I felt very lived in with everything going on in Ruffalo's side of the story. You know, he felt very much a piece of the city, and I just felt like that element of it worked quite well. Mm-hmm. Like his story, I think if we kind of separate the two stories, I think his works really well for me is this, a struggling relationship with his wife, that they're still married. He's just not living there because of this whole breakdown that he had after she had this affair and was going to leave him and then didn't, and everything. And it's still trying to, work on his relationship with his daughter, dealing with alcoholism, wanting to kind of like completely upend his business. And I think Ruffalo is great for that. And I think Catherine Keener is a perfect. They're always
Catherine Keener.
They're just always great together. I'm convinced that Catherine Keener has it in her contracts that her hair always has to look like this in every movie she does.
Does she
always looks this way.
And yet, for someone who has so little screen time, does she not feel like the most human person in every movie that she's ever in? I feel like
I know she's
incredibly
treasure. Yeah,
lived in. God, Catherine Keener. God damn you, Catherine Keener. You're brilliant.
She's great. And Haley Steinfeld, I loved as their daughter. I thought she was
15 years old in this movie.
She was fantastic. Yeah, I can, because I think it was the year before this she had just done True Grit, which was, I think, her first film. So
yeah, she's amazing.
I think she's great. And we know she's a musician now.
Yeah, I think she learned the guitar for this. And I think she learned better than Keira Knightley.
Playing
electric is different for sure.
It's and she's only strumming a few notes, so she's not quite as complex. But I still thought she did a great job throughout all of that. I enjoyed that family, like the dynamic of this family. I think plays really well, and then the kind of the surrogate kind of friend / mother figure she ends up seeing in Greta. Keira Knightley's character, as they go shopping, and she gives her tips on the boy and everything. Like, I loved all of that. I think it plays really nicely.
Yes.
And then the way that his struggles come out, I think, like, this is where I think John Carney excels in crafting these stories of human struggles and dealing with his feelings about his relationship, the fact that he walks out of that coffee shop when he and Greta are talking and she brings it up and seems kind of pushy, and then just like that whole conversation afterward and opening up, like, I think all of that plays so nicely and felt so realistic with these two characters. I just loved that whole side of the story. Very, very authentic.
I think the Yasin Bey sequences. So Yasin Bey plays his former partner in name only at this point, of this record label, and Ruffalo's character has made is struggling. He's professionally struggling to find a new artist to sign that have the same energy that he once did, the same potential, and the record label has outpaced him. It's continued to grow and do other things. I think the Yasin Bey character appropriately represents the superficiality of the music industry, the business of the music industry, and that's at the heart of the conflict in this movie is, the authenticity versus the business, and what do you have to sacrifice in order to in order to get signed, in order to make any money. The entire conversation at the end, the sort of business climax of the movie, where she says, "Why are you keeping $9 of my dollars when we're not going to make CDs. We're just going to put this thing online. Why do you do that?" And when the business guy next to her says, "Well, I mean, it's $1 a book. You get $1 a book. That's or $1 a CD. It's just like books. It's $1 a book." And that just made me so mad institutionally watching that conversation that I really loved the turn when they sit down on the couch together and release the album for $1. That just felt like a good dopamine hit vindication of that entire storyline. I'm very, very satisfied with it. It did exactly what it needed to do. That was great. We haven't talked about I can't believe that I've let it go this long. My very favorite sequence, which is the initial interpretation or the mixing in Mark Ruffalo's head of that first song, A Step, was it A Step You Can't Take Back? And this is all a part of the non-linearity of the first part of the movie, where we get to live through Keira Knightley's experience on and leading up to this open mic night. And she sings this song, and from her perspective, it doesn't go great. Nobody seems very interested in it. Then we switch stories and we switch over to Ruffalo, and we see his backstory leading to what brought him to this open mic night. And he gets to hear her sing, and we get to see what he hears in his head as she starts to play, and the instruments on stage around her become phantom band members and start to play themselves. And this is why I watch this movie again and again, for this 3-minute sequence. It is my favorite thing in this movie.
It's a fantastic visualization of, somebody who has this skill of being able to kind of hear the accompaniment to a song and to just kind of hear what else could enhance it and help it out. And I loved how it plays. It's very magical, the way that the drum sticks kind of float up into the air and start playing, and the keys on the piano start moving, and
cello,
all of that, the cello and the violin and everything. It's very cool. I like it quite a bit. I agree.
I also love that. I mean, you said it. His skill, his superpower, is seeing the potential in others' music. Right? That's his gift. He's not himself a musician. He is, in many ways, I think Ruffalo is the avatar for John Carney. And I think you get the feel in the construction of this movie that Carney sees that too, right? Because Carney was a bass player for the Frames in the early 90s. Ruffalo on the rooftop gets the reminder, "Hey, I heard you used to be a bass player. Maybe you should pick up the bass right now, wink, wink." And so Ruffalo's character picks up the bass and plays a little bit. And being able to unveil this superpower in that pub while we're dancing around the more complicated issue of this character's high-functioning alcoholism, I think is a really interesting sort of set of conflicts that we experience very early to set the stage for the rest of the movie. Structurally, I really like it. That dual narrative in the first 20, 30 minutes is something that people, I think, criticize, to me, unfairly. I think it works very well.
I mean, just to that point, it is an interesting structure, the way that we follow her, meet him, back up, follow him, we go home with her, she starts watching videos, back up, watch through the lens of those videos her entire relationship with Adam Levine, and kind of get that story, and then we kind of catch up. So there is a lot of jumping around, but I never was that an issue for me. I think that the way that the story is constructed, I think, plays fine. So, but yeah, I love just that setup, and I think I mean, is it something that we should have seen again, or is it just fine that one time? I think it's fine the one time, but at least you're getting a sense as to like how he visions things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it would have been overdone had we gotten to see it again. You know what I mean? Like, it's a really special little nugget in this movie. It's the exact same, and I think probably about the same point in the movie as in Once, when Hansard and Marika are in the piano store, where we have the unveiling of what it's like to work together and make a song and invent harmonies for the first time. And I think that realizing what music can be is central to these movies, and these scenes are the principal scenes that allow us to do that.
Yeah. And that was Marquetta.
Marquetta, thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about Greta, Keira Knightley's character, because I think that it's an interesting element to this story that we have, you know, and paired with Adam Levine, who's at the start of the film, their boyfriend, girlfriend. He's written, or she has written songs. He's performed some songs of hers. He's just starred in a movie that clearly is a musical movie and sings on the soundtrack. And it, you know, I think in the scope of things, I think Rob Morrow is perhaps a step beyond where Yassine Bey is.
Yes, for sure.
That whole thing. But so she, you know, and he's, as Mark Ruffalo defines Adam Levine's character, Dave Cole, he wants the fame, he wants this. And so I think the way that relationship plays is a very interesting one. She only comes here because he has come here to record some stuff, and he ends up going off to LA, gets inspired, comes back, writes some song, or has written some songs, comes back and plays one for Greta, and as she listens, then she slaps him. And that is one of my favorite moments of the movie, because as a songwriter, listening to his lyrics of this song that he just was inspired to write was a confession that, you know, I have fallen in love with someone else. Someone inspired me to write this song. I think that is such a clever way to play that scene and the subsequent kind of breakup, because it reads as just smart understanding of him. She understands him, what his capabilities are. This song seemed like something that he wouldn't have been able to put together without having that inspiration.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think this scene punctuates why you do cast Keira Knightley in this role, because you just watch her face over the course of this thing as her right eye appears to water faster than her left. I don't know, but you can tell she's on the verge of tears, and as she's watching this, and that onslaught of emotion is, I think, really principal to her talent as an actor, right? Like, she is so good at conveying the subtleties of this transformation. Levine is simultaneously in this movie kind of the most natural of performers, and a bit, you know, the most problematic, because he's playing himself. He has almost no dramatic range. Like, he can play slightly abashed successful musician and somewhat more abashed successful musician, and that is kind of it. Like, that's where he's at. But this scene is really good for an abashed successful musician, right? Somebody who actually feels that sense of emotional self-loathing at the same time as he's willing to let his ego say, I'm gonna see this through, right? I don't know what's gonna happen. It might end tomorrow, but our relationship as it has ever been is over because I'm with Mim for now. Who knows what happens next? I find him truly believable in this sequence. Everything else, it feels like I'm watching Adam Levine, and that's fine because I'm a fan of Maroon 5. I'm a fan of Adam Levine, and his live performance at the end of this movie is fantastic. It makes me love the song.
I think you're being a little hard on him. I think that he plays well, but I think the reason that he plays well is because John Carney's already proven to us that he can cast musicians and get them to deliver scenes.
Yeah.
And I think Adam Levine, he's not giving Adam anything that he couldn't do, right? He's not having him
For sure.
pull a Forrest Gump or anything like that. It's a pretty straightforward performance, and I think it plays well. I like what Adam is doing here.
Me too.
And I also like his performance at the end. And it's going back to why you cast Keira Knightley. That final concert scene is another reason. As he's up there and he says, "I'm going to play it the way that she the way that she wrote it." And he starts playing it, and it's really good. And she's listening from the doorway, and he doesn't know that she's there. And the way that plays is so beautiful as she sees that he's capturing the essence of it. But then there's that moment where he just can't not do it his way. And he kicks in, and it really kind of becomes that Maroon 5 voice of his that's just so so amazing. But that's breaking what she thought the song needed to be. And she sees how popular it is and everything, but it's like it's not theirs anymore, as she said. And he crossed the line, and just like watching her face as she's just like, "No, you couldn't do it. You just couldn't play it that way," and leaves. I mean, it's awesome.
Do you think this is? I agree with everything you just said. And what was going on in my head at that time was Dave, Adam, on stage is motioning for her to come up and play with him.
Yeah.
And there's a guitar on stage for her, an acoustic guitar sitting right there, and he's playing the song. Do you think that there is something to this idea that had she gone up on stage, she could have and would have maintained the aesthetic of the song as she intended it, and that in fact it was the fact that she left or that she refused to come on stage that was a sign that their relationship is over and there's no rehabilitation, and the song is lovely and Adam's moving forward in a new direction, committed.
And he's going to do whatever he wants now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's some of that, but I don't know if he was thinking that deeply about it. I think that, he sees the fans, all the women jumping up and down in the audience, singing along. I think he's just into it, and he just does what he does, and he
loves
takes
that
it
fame.
his way.
Yeah.
He takes it his way.
Yeah. James Corden. He's a delightful fellow, James Corden.
Yeah, I like James Corden. I don't. What was? I trying to remember what films I first saw him in. Like Into the Woods was after this. Mm-hmm. Was he in many? Was he mostly just stage before this?
I honestly think this was the first film that I saw him in. I think that's true.
Well, he had been in film since '97, so we missed a lot.
Yeah, and I know he did a bunch of stuff in the UK that I was not aware of.
Just lots
TV
of
too.
Lots of things too. So very busy person, but I always associated him with the stage, which is where he
was I think on stage while he was making this movie.
Right,
yeah.
like he shot during the day and then went to perform at night. So very, very busy. I like James Corden. I always think
which is
he's
weird
fun.
Because it feels like everything that he's doing in this movie almost everything was at night.
Yeah, I was
during
wondering
the
about
day.
that. Yeah.
There was a lot of the outdoor band recording that he was in, but
that's what Mondays they don't have are the dark days for theater.
Oh, is it?
I don't know. Is that?
I don't know. Is that true?
Well, I figured you knew.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's a dark day, right? They don't perform 7 days a week.
So he gets his nights on Monday nights. Yeah. All right. I really liked him. He does what he needs to do, is the affable buddy with the crappy apartment. And I like their reunion, Keira Knightley and James Corden. I think Gordon has a great voice. I like watching him busk, even when he's singing really, exaggerated songs. I have a good time with him. I find he's enormously charismatic. So I don't think you can lose with Gordon as the buddy.
I thought he was great as the buddy. I had a harder time watching him busk than Glenn Hansard in the previous film. Like he just seemed like an actor busking.
Yeah, Hansard embodies it as an identity. Right. That's for sure. That's
exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
I think I really stand by my comment. I enjoyed watching James Corden busk. Full stop.
Yeah.
Okay, and last person that I wanted to mention was CeeLo.
Yes. Well, I'm assuming this was the period of time that he and Adam were on, whatever, not America's Got Talent, whatever the show that was.
Was it The Voice?
Together. The Voice, yes.
Yeah.
Is this The Voice era?
Andy, I've never watched an episode of The Voice. I've seen
a few clips. Are you kidding me? You seem like such a Voice guy.
I was I'm
I
not
watched
an America's Got
years.
Talent guy or a Voice guy. I've never done it.
It started in 2011, so a few years before this. So he and Adam were co-hosts of it in those first few seasons, and so I think I think CeeLo was a host on it until the Me Too killed his career. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I know that suddenly he's just no longer someone you talk about.
Oh, should we not talk about him right now?
Hey, you started it.
Was he in this movie? I don't even remember him in this movie. I think CeeLo is playing exactly the part that you need to play. But what I really want to use CeeLo as a launch pad for is another potential. I don't know. It's a thing I was thinking about. Is it a quibble? I don't know. But if we go to, so the function of CeeLo's character in the movie is to offer a launch pad for recording this album, because it was CeeLo's career as troublemaker. I can't remember. Was that what he
Trouble Gum. Weird
Trouble
name.
Gum?
Trouble Gum.
No, Trouble Gum.
It's like Bubblegum, Trouble Gum. Yeah.
He was produced by Ruffalo's character. And, Trouble Gum says, all of this, all these cars are thanks to that guy, and I'm never going to forget that. And there's a really, I think, a lovely little thoughtful, scene in CeeLo's enormous driveway where he talks through the connection that he has with Ruffalo's character. And I like that a lot. It is a sign that Ruffalo's down on his luck vibe is of Ruffalo's making. Right? He is clearly dealing with stuff inside himself that is not necessarily structural to the industry to me, because he's a guy who still has connections, who will step up for him when he needs them, connections with a lot of money, who will obviously help him figure out what his next step is. That means that Ruffalo's path is being of his own making is marred by his drinking. It's marred by his internal state. It's marred by all kinds of things, but it's not the fact that Yasin Bey asked him to clean out his locker, right? Yasin Bey did that because Ruffalo's torpedoing his own career. And the same goes for Keira Knightley, who I never get the feeling wanted what Ruffalo was proposing for her. Right? She was never a desperate musician. She was never out to seek the kind of fame that Adam Levine came to New York to find. And I wonder if that whole foundation is one of the things that causes me to look askance at this movie, that on their side, not on the Adam Levine side, but on their side of the story, particularly Keira Knightley's character, there's no real aspiration. She openly says, I make music for my cats. And they have very good taste, but that's all I care about. Would it have been better if they go to CeeLo and say, look, she's dynamic, a dynamite songwriter, and she wants it badly?
I don't know if we needed. It's a tricky point, because even after the meeting toward the end of the film with his partner Saul, she's just like, oh, it's so great to just not care about the what's going to happen because you always win, and that whole thing where that's why she kind of pushes back so much about the $9 versus the $1 with every album. I think that plays. I think that conversation plays very authentically. You've already talked about that, like the struggle artists have with how much money these producers take. I don't know. Does it change? Do we need her to be more motivated? I don't know, because I don't think it's her story so much as his story. And his journey, I think, is complete by finding her and helping her. And even at the end, I think he realizes, I don't know. I definitely want to talk about the ending as a separate topic, but I think the way that she decides, I just want to release it for $1 an album, and then Troublegum tells all of his friends on Twitter about it, and suddenly the first day they make $10,000. Like, it's very exciting to see. And I think what it showed him, Ruffalo's character, who we've seen his character, he's grown, he's changed, he's improved himself, he's back together working on his relationship again with Catherine Keener. Like, we see that he's actually trying to fix himself. He refuses the alcohol when offered at the wrap party. And here it's like he's pushing her to, like, let's meet with Saul and get your album out there. And like he's wanting it to be what he thinks. To
push her back into the machine.
Yeah, back into the machine. And I think her refusal of that is him kind of, in a way, she's teaching him what it means to be authentic. And that final moment, I think, is critical for the closure of his full journey there.
Headcanon. Does she make another album?
Oh, I don't know. I doubt it, but what I would imagine is, as a songwriter, I think, a lot of people probably end up coming to her to write their songs.
Oh, I like that. I like your headcanon.
And I think eventually, if she does release something, she's going to release her version of Lost Stars.
Yeah. I will say, on the soundtrack to the movie, you get 3 versions of Lost Stars, right? You get the Adam Levine nice version, the Adam Levine rock version, and you get the Keira Knightley version. So if you want to just mainline Lost Stars, you have a way to do it.
Yes, you do.
You'll never want to hear it again.
Anyway, I want to talk about the way the film ends, because my wife and I were chatting about this a little bit after it ended, because we have her going to Dave Cole's concert, hearing Lost Stars. He can't help it. He turns it into his rock song. She cries. She leaves. She's walking down the street. She's smiling. We're also intercutting back and forth with Mark Ruffalo and Catherine Keener sitting on a park bench sharing music again. Like, everyone's happy, basically. We end it ends on a shot of her face. She's smiling. It's a close up. She's kind of connecting with things. And then it goes black, credits start to roll. And then this whole last section of the film plays over the credits. The whole thing with her wanting to release it for $1, all of that, all the way up through him talking to Saul back at the office and about this whole thing. Did that need to be during the credits? Does it change the context because it's during the credits as opposed to the end of the film? Where does that land for you?
It's a really good question, and I struggled with it. I like it as a sort of coda epilogue. It's certainly better than a post-credits scene for this movie, right? You can imagine how horrible that would be, because it changes the nature of the film, right? That ending. It changes your ability to interpret the film. Interestingly, it makes the film's sort of critique of the music industry a little bit dated, because I think streaming, these online downloads have transformed the landscape for acquisition of music far more radically than Begin Again ever imagined.
And had before this movie also.
Yeah, right. Well, and Greta's sort of this triumphant kind of epilogue of self-release reads as just sort of naive, given how little artists earn from streaming. I think Ruffalo's comment of "How about $2?" is still vastly underselling the value of the music. I think the film has such optimism for digital distribution and artist independence and all of that, and didn't anticipate the impact of new technologies and how they would create exploitation mechanics in the business. From the film's perspective, from the character's perspective, I love that we have that show of independence in this credits sequence, but it feels super, super dated. This feels like a period piece, that we can't relate to as authentically today, because it does not demonstrate the accurate mechanic of the music business the way it tried to do.
None of that crossed my mind, but I guess my issue was it seems like the actual end of the movie is the resolution of the album. And while her resolution with her relationship with Dave is important, and it gives a great end to the film itself of, just kind of like she's smiling, she's done with this relationship and she's moving on. I think it goes back to, I feel like it's a critical part of the story, and it boils down to, and this is, I think, one thing with John Carney that we're seeing as he's evolving as a storyteller in these sorts of stories is figuring out like who's his protagonist. And I feel like there's a little confusion in this film on his part as to is this Greta's story or is this Dan's story? Like who's really the protagonist of the story? And I feel like it's Dan's story. I mean, we start with Greta. We meet Greta, first. But Dan is the one who's got all these issues and becomes the one who gets the story going because he is introduced to Greta and now wants to produce an album with her, has these issues, and through all of this ends up becoming healing essentially through the course of the story. And by chopping it off with Greta, I don't think we're getting the full Dan story. And I feel like the reason that the rest of the story feels so satisfying, at least in my money, is because that's the final piece of the puzzle we needed for Dan's journey, to have that moment of seeing this new model of the music industry potentially work that actually is more, in some way, provides more authenticity for the artists themselves.
That's interesting. And I think I don't read too much into it, but I think one of the, I think you could make a critique of the film that it's that the narrative really privileges Dan and his redemption story in that way vastly over Greta's journey as an artist. And it makes the film, it's interesting that you call out that we meet Greta first. Our first intimate time with her is on stage as she is performing, and yet the rest of the movie is vastly Dan-centered, male-centered, right? That could be a pretty significant kind of feminist film critique, that the movie purports to be about Greta because we start with her and it ends up being about Dan's redemption, and maybe unfairly to Greta's story. I just felt like Carney liked Dan more.
Well, he certainly liked Mark Ruffalo more than Keira Knightley. Like we already discussed that. Yeah, and that could have been part of the reason that he maybe latched onto that more.
Yeah.
But and it's always tricky in these relationship stories where you have your two main characters are they're kind of developing a relationship in some capacity, because then it's a dance between like, well, whose story is it? Who am I really focusing on here? Like in Once, I guess I'd say it's the guy's story more than the girl's.
Yeah.
But and maybe that's just Carney as a male who
Filmmaker, yeah.
is easier for him to kind of tell the story from the male's point of view. Who knows? But
there's another interesting tie-in. The Once gives us an opportunity to have a very short conversation about potentiality of hookup, right? I'm not coming over because it would just be hanky-panky. Okay, I'll come over. Oh, then she doesn't come over. This movie, there is, I think, sexual tension at some point, maybe romantic tension, and they don't hook up again. And I wonder what is the tension there in the narrative that both requires these movies to have the potential of that energy between these characters and yet have it be consistently unrequited.
I mean, it's definitely there in this film. And we have that final moment between Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo after they've finished the album and they are outside and they're saying their goodbyes and everything. And you definitely feel that. And he's, I think, conflicted with the idea of, I mean, the reason that this whole issue with his relationship started is because his wife had met somebody else and had an affair, was going to leave him, and only didn't because the guy chickened out, as we find out. And so he's still trying to figure out how to rebuild this relationship. And I think for him, in his mind's eye, it's like, it's my turn. It's totally fair for me to do this, And I think there's a little bit of that we get from him as he's hanging out with Greta at this particular point in the film, and especially because I think there's something about when you're working on a project like this together and everybody becomes really close and you become like, you're creatively intimate and everything just feels so personal to have that natural draw to somebody. And I think that at this particular point in the film, they're both feeling it, but I think, I don't know. I had a sense that she was the one who's just like, she kind of puts her hand on his chest and says, okay, I got time to go, and leaves. And I think that it plays in that way where they're acknowledging that moment was there, but that it's not something that can happen. Much like in Once. And again, both of these people had other people in their lives they were still trying to sort things out with. She ends up leaving Dave, and he ends up back with his wife. But I think that moment is there. And I think it's important for them to just acknowledge. And I love the way that, this is something I really appreciate with Carney, is how he taps into those moments and makes me feel the tension and acknowledging it as they decide to, make smarter decisions.
Yeah. I do too. I think that is a consistent thread through all of these movies, is Carney's ability to do just that and to do it consistently in a way that we buy. And I do love it. It's interesting to think back, even as the movie has a critique on the music industry and its impact on relationships. It does make me think about movies like Inside Llewyn Davis, right, where the Coens end up choosing a vastly bleaker commentary on the music industry, or A Star Is Born, where we have the same kind of relationship. We have the artist, and we have substance abuse and inner turmoil, and again, much more bleak than this movie. This movie, as interesting as his commentary is, I guess maybe this further supports the fact that it's a bit dated, that it is a moment in time where everybody can be making music through this grand transition of the business and still be happy about it at the end.
Yes, I agree with all of that. I don't know if it doesn't strike me as dated. It just feels of its era. But, I think that
I think I'm saying that in that's what I mean. What you said. What you said is what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, dated makes it sound like, oh, this doesn't play anymore. So
no, it is of its
that's
era.
not what you're saying.
That's better.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I will say, if anything, it might feel a little past its era. Like, I feel like the way that as we just said, like the streaming story might have made more sense had this come out 3 or 4 years earlier, as opposed to 2014. So
yeah,
but yeah,
it's interesting.
But I still, I don't know. I love I love stories about artists and like their passionate journeys to do something and move forward and figure themselves out. So, I mean, in the end, I still really connect with this film. I really do enjoy it. Yeah.
If you were to flick chart this movie against Once, where would it be?
I think above it.
Okay. Good. We'll come back to that next week.
Okay. All right.
I'm very excited about that.
All right. Well, is that it, or should we move forward?
That's what I got. I got.
Well, we'll be right back, but first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Demetrix, Wonderland, Russo and Weinberg, Oriole Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show. Sequels and remakes, Broadway adaptations, what do we have?
You're not far off. Oh. There is a stage adaptation that has not been performed yet. It's in the works, and it is going to premiere at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, California, fall 2026. So this, I'm assuming, is relatively new news. Being directed by Lauren Lataro and choreographed by David Newman, two prominent theater names. So I'm curious.
I'm very excited to see what they do with the Phantom Instruments scene. That could be really fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, how to do it award season.
This film had 5 wins with 18 other nominations, primarily song, a lot of song nominations. At the Oscars, Lost Stars was nominated for Best Song, but lost to Glory from Selma. I will just like to call out, as I do when this category comes up this particular year, Everything is Awesome from the Lego Movie also lost, which is my greatest sadness.
Keep carrying that torch, man.
That's right. At the Critics' Choice Award, Lost Stars lost Best Song to Glory from Selma again. At the Irish Film and Television Awards, Best Director for Film, Carney lost to Lenny Abrahamson for Frank. I think you're a big fan of Frank, right?
Big fan of Frank.
Yeah. And at the Guild of Music Supervisors Awards, it was nominated for Best Music Supervision for film budgeted under $10 million, and it won.
Well, look at that.
Yeah.
All right. Under $10 million, but just barely. How to do at the box office. What did you get from opening the Weinstein vault?
Wow, that just went a totally different direction. Yeah. It is clear that Carney is riding on the success of his indie film based on the budget here. For this film, he had a budget of $8 million, which is more than 53 times what he had for Once. That's $10.7 million in today's dollars. After premiering at TIFF in 2013 under the title Can a Song Save Your Life?, the movie opened June 27th, 2014, opposite Transformers: Age of Extinction, Tammy, Deliver Us from Evil, and Earth to Echo. It opened on 175 screens, definitely bigger than how Once started, and that would increase to 1,302 after a few weeks. It would only crack into the top 10 once in its third week, but otherwise, it did well enough coasting along. In the end, the movie went on to earn $16.7 million domestically and $68.9 million internationally for a total gross of $113.7 million in today's dollars. That lands the film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $990,000. All in all, a great job, but with a bigger budget, it still couldn't hit the profit ratio that Once did. And I will say, just as a side note, as I was doing some further research, I did notice that when it premiered at TIFF, it created a bidding war, and the Weinstein Company ended up winning the bid. One of the promises that they said is $20 million in prints and advertising. So I didn't figure that into the budget here. So that's another $20 million they spent. At least $20 million, I believe, is what the the deal said. So just assuming it's 20 million, it still ended up making its money back, but it obviously that decreased the profit ratio even more.
Interesting. Can I give you my quick armchair recast of Keira Knightley and just see what you say? Just gut response. If we were to replace Keira Knightley
in 2014, like that era.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could. I think this is an actor who was definitely doing things at this point.
Okay,
I'm going to say it, and I just want to watch your face. Jessie Buckley.
I know she did a musical movie. What was that movie?
Yeah, she did Wild Rose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she did that after this. I mean, that was like 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Jessie Buckley's fine. She's, I
How
go
dare
back and
you,
forth.
sir?
I go back and forth on Jessie Buckley. Yeah.
Oh my God. If I had a white glove right now, I would dash you across the cheek.
And I've never heard her sing. I didn't see Wild Rose, so I can't speak to her in the scope of voice.
I think Jessie Buckley is a national treasure, just not of our nation. She's Irish. She's got music in her. I think she's great. And man, I'd hoped for a more enthusiastic response on that.
You should have known my feelings about her before you asked that question.
God, man, what a miss. Yeah. All right.
Well, that's it. So next week. Oh, no. Wait. How are we doing this now? Since I don't have an ad in this section anymore. I guess I'm just turning it over to the ratings.
Yeah. That's what we did on Friday.
Okay. I don't remember that, but all right. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Next week, we are looking at Carney's final film in this unofficial trilogy, Sing Street. This is a big one in your catalog, right?
This is the last one. I'm very excited about it. But before we dig into that next week, we have to rate this week. And we do that on Letterboxd, letterboxd.com/thenextreel. That's where we apply our stars and also our hearts. And we're going to start with you, Andy. What are you going to do for this movie?
When I first watched this, I gave it 4.5. I think it's down to 4 at this point. 4 stars in our heart. I still really like it, but I didn't love it quite as much as I did that first watch.
Okay. I see. These are the perils of Pete. No half stars, right? I think it was a 4 for me. Once was also a 4 for me. Would it fall to a 3? I don't think so. I think I'm going to be the optimistic one against my rating. I think I'm going to go with a 4 here too. That puts a lot of pressure on my memory of Sing Street, though.
I just want to say, no lost stars with this movie, Pete?
There's one lost star. That was good, Andy. That was good.
Wah. All right, that averages out to 4 stars and a heart, which you can find on our account at Letterboxd at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film, and you can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So what do you think about Begin Again? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends.
Our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
All right. How did you discern your review this week?
I sorted by review activity and landed on 3.5.
Okay. What do you got?
3.5 by Fleabag, who says, I always forget Keira Knightley exists outside of the 1800s.
That's true. Maybe that's one of the problems I have with Keira Knightley. She's so good in the 1800s.
Right. I can't remember if that came up when we talked about laggies, but that is something with Keira Knightley where it's like she does, like there are those certain performers who is just like, I can't picture you in a, like present day story.
That's really funny.
Kate Winslet was like that for me for a long time. I'm like Kate Winslet, like I think when she did Eternal Sunshine. I was just like, God, it's weird
Oh
seeing
yeah,
her in
who
a
is
movie
that woman?
Present
Nobody
day.
knew. Right. I've got a 3-star from Lindsay who says, I wish it had cut out the entire damn Levine romance subplot and just give me 90 minutes of Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo being cute music friends making an album together. I just share that one because the phrase cute music friends is one that I'd like to have tattooed on my forearm.
You should do that with all your singing buddies. You should all get that, like all of the Fellowship of the Ring. You should all have cute music friends tattooed on your arms together.
Do you know what? I'm going to send you a picture because one of us did that and has a tattoo that has. It's like what was the guy who did the? It was like the stick figure art, but big bold strokes and bright colors.
Goring.
It's
Is it no? Is it?
You're
I know
on
what
it.
you mean. Yeah,
you know what I mean. He had one of those built or tattooed on his arm, and inside the shape, there is a photo of the 7 of us that was taken years ago, and he had it recreated in that style. So all of our heads are kind of relatively Keith Haring. It's a herring style, and it is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And if you look at it, it's a little representation of all of us. And he had it done after the member first of us died last month, and it was such a lovely tribute. I'm not kidding. All of us are thinking about how we're going to get a tattoo as a result of that. I'm at a loss. Not the same one, but just representing the 7 of us.
Well, I think it should say cute music friends. I think you already answered that question.
God, you're right. Maybe that's the one for me. CMFs. Cute music friends. Thanks, Letterboxd.